Good morning, Swastika, Namaskar. I would like to welcome Dr. Shweta Sinha and Professor Srichampa to this webinar, which is being hosted on the occasion of International Day of Women. It's an important occasion that highlights the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women, as well as the ongoing struggle for the gender equity. This day is a reminder of the extraordinary achievements and contribution that women have made to the society throughout history, and also the obstacles that they have faced along the way. Uh, by commemorating the International Day of Women, we endeavor to spread awareness, bring in positive changes, and celebrate the achievements of women in the society. It's a celebration of respect, appreciation, gratitude, love, and care towards women. Today, we have two accomplished speakers with us, Dr. Shweta Sinha and Professor Srichampa from the Thammasat University, who will be joining us and, uh, and sharing their thoughts with us as to how we can further continue to work together and bring in positive changes in the society. I'll give the floor to Dr. Shweta Sinha now, who will be presenting her presentation. Thank you, Dr. Shweta.
Thank you so much, Vipulji, and Professor Sompa. Thank you so much. It's a good opportunity and privilege to be here today. I wish everyone happy International Women's Day, and I'm grateful to the Indian Embassy, the SVCC, for this organizing this talk, and also a great appreciation to Mayor Falwang Foundation under royal patronage that has also given me an opportunity to talk about this issue on this very relevant day. So I am actually based at Thammasat University. I work in the areas of environmental technologies and interdisciplinary areas. And I think we all understand that women have been an important parameter across all the sectors we have seen, and also all the 17 SDGs that we are currently focusing on in terms of achieving by 2030. So it's definitely a very important role which women have to play in this area. And through this, I would like to bring forward a very recent study which has been conducted at the Tung Development Project, focusing on indigenous women in the Tung project. And it just started with a very small idea. I was just visiting Tung project and had an interaction with many indigenous women there, and thought of looking at this as one of the interesting studies to see how women have improved their economic status or their well-being, the social issues over the period of 3 decades, where sustainable development projects have been implemented through the Tung Development Project. And I'm grateful that the proposal was accepted and thoroughly funded by the foundation. And I think gender is an important matter. The world has placed the agenda to the Sustainable Development Goals to achieve in 2030. However, we see that women remain disproportionately affected, struggling with loss of jobs and livelihoods, derailed education, maybe also some kind of increase in unpaid care work, especially during the pandemic. And there are various other issues like making women more food secure, how women could have access to appropriate nutrition, and the list goes on. So reducing gender gap remains a priority in terms of achieving gender equality and empower all women and girls by 2030. Also, if we look at the ILO statistics, around 64% of women employed in the region are involved in informal employment, and less than 15% of the employed women in the region actually receive maternity benefits. Talking about the Tung Development Project, since 1987, it has practiced the people-centric approach and allow for the development in the areas to flourish according to the people's need. And empowering women through sustainable development is another study which speaks about women from 6 ethnic groups to address the sustainability issues in the Doitung area in the northern part of Thailand. Can maybe we go to the next slide, please? Can we go to the next slide, please? Right. So the increase in women's income and time poverty is important for sustainable development. It is necessary to understand the level of access women have to different kind of empowerment tools. And some of the pertinent questions that come to our mind is looking at what type of access to financial tools and resources women have within the households. What roles and expectations women and their family members have regarding domestic labor and paid work outside the home. Also, how women participate in household financial decision makings, or maybe some other challenges and issues in terms of improving economic status of women. And also, we tried to look at some of the best practices, how the skills can be improved, access to knowledge that are crucial to strike a balance between when we talk about sustainability in terms of environment sustainability as well as the socio-economic development. Next slide, please. So I think it's interesting to begin with a success story. Kun Mayura is one of the prominent women in the Doitung project. She is the village committee member in the Lahu tribe. There are 6 tribes, and she's around 56 years of age. And she has been looked at as one of the successful women under the Doitung Development Project, which actually first belonged to the Akka community, but then later married into the Lahu community, mentioned about lots of drawbacks and challenges that differed from the tribes within the Doitung project as well. So she lost her husband about 10 years back, and since then she has been striving to empower herself and work on her own on different areas, also trying to explore different opportunities using ICT. She has access to mobile phones now. She has a bank account, and she has been a successful case in terms of the Doitung project. And as she rightly mentioned that in the past she experienced issues related to gender inequality in terms of the potential and opportunity for male and female within the community. And things are definitely progressing in the positive direction, but still today the Lao community is headed by a male, and although the men do not object women taking up positions based on their capability and performance, but creating more opportunities for women would definitely be useful and inspirational for the women in the community. We can move on to the next slide. So very quickly, touching upon important issues of women in Thailand, access to basic education has gradually expanded in Thailand over the years. Literacy rate in terms of youngsters between 15 to 24, where we could see female literacy rate has been around 98.6%, a little bit higher than males in 2018. Sex ratio in Thailand is 94.8 males per 100 females. Women employed in agriculture, industry, and services, we could see a maximum contribution in the service industry with about 52.2%. And according to the Women in Business 2020 report, it indicates that Thailand holds around 33% of CEOs and managing directors in the private sector, a bit higher than what we have in terms of China, Taiwan, Vietnam, and other neighboring countries. Also, according to the Medical Council of Thailand, out of the total doctors in 2020, 45% are seen to be women. Also, the SDG Gender Index, Thailand is ranked at 52nd amongst 129 countries, and there are multiple indicators that link to the 17 SDGs from the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which include 51 indicators ranging from health, gender-based violence, climate change, maybe decent work, and maybe much more. So also the ILO stat indicates that female share of economic occupation is dominated by low skill work, such as clerical jobs, sales workers, and elementary occupation. And women are responsible in terms of Thailand, around 68% of clerical work, 60% of services, 48% of agricultural and forestry, and 48% around elementary operations. Also, the female migrant population comprises of 48% mainly from China, Myanmar, and Laos PDR. Next slide, please. Some of the important indicators where we look at the gender development index, which is based on the sex disaggregated human development index, is defined as the ratio of female to male human development index. We could see the Thailand positioning at the GDI value at 1.008, human development index values for male, female, life expectancy, expected years of schooling, means years of schooling, and GNI per capita. Also, other very important indicator would be gender inequality index, which reflects on the gender-based inequalities in 3 dimensions. It could be the reproductive health, the empowerment and economic activity, where we can see the GII value for Thailand, its ranking as 80th. When we talk about the reproductive health, the maternal mortality ratio, adolescence birth rate at 44.9. Then looking at the empowerment aspects, female seats in the parliament, currently, I think this is 2020, around 14.1%. And the population of at least some secondary education of females and males. And finally, the economic activity in terms of the labor force participation ratio for females and males at 59.2% for females and 76.1% in case of Thailand. Next slide, please. Women, around 31.1% of females graduate from the STEM area, 79.8% women have seen to be having accounts at financial institutions or with some kind of mobile money service provider. Around 31% females are employed in senior and middle management, and 58.7% of Thai females were seen using mobile phones, cellular phones, as compared to 60.1% males in 2018. Or as compared, of course, a little bit low as compared to other countries in Republic of Korea, Japan, and Hong Kong, but of course, it's a prominent contribution number. But still, there are gaps in data availability regarding girls and women. In addition, there are many areas such as gender and poverty, women access to asset, including land, gender and environment currently lack comparable methodologies for comprehensive and periodic monitoring, which is definitely an issue. Coming to SDG 5, talking about the gender equality, I think the Tung Development Project has always practiced this approach, focusing on the need. And this study is a result of research work which was conducted under the Tung Development Project. Next slide, please. So the Tung Development Project is basically a flagship initiative of Ma Falun Foundation under royal patronage in Thailand and has been fostering sustainable development practices for the last 3 decades. And over the years, there have been 3 phases of programs that have been targeted as development for indigenous communities in the northern part of Thailand. And these phases started with the security and foundation, where they tried to improve the basic infrastructure and utilities, trying to improve the job and income levels, access of medical treatment, also looking at skills training, education, economic and sustenance, forestry, also trying to look at preserving the local cultures. So the next phase was looking at the financial stability, trying to create financial stability. But this is something which was done as a whole for the community. Development of 5 business units, the food, cafe, Doi Tung, which is very common. I think everyone in Thailand has come across Doi Tung coffee. agriculture, tourism, handicrafts, and cottage industry. Also, some kind of incubation centers for entrepreneurs to work through agroforestry training, coffee and macadamia processing, adaptation of different school curriculums, health and promotional preventions. And the third phase actually talks about the sustainability more towards keeping the forest areas intact, looking at circular economy, looking at renewable energy, waste management, diversified tourism, and also better quality of education for the people living in the community. Next slide, please. So the idea and objective of this research was to look at the economic development of women, looking at how they improvised economically, looking at the social issues and also the well-being aspect under the Deutung Development Project over the last 3 decades. And the study was based on the primary and secondary information collected through reviews, surveys, focus group discussion, interviews, also looked at individual cases, and we collected data from the gender-related information in the Deutung Development Project. We tried to identify groups and communities for conducting surveys, also trying to look at household data collection and female household leaders and trying to understand their viewpoints, their issues and challenges they have been facing, and out of them, how much they have overcome. So there were different activities. There were more than 16 meetings we organized with the 6 communities, the tribes, the 6 tribes, and all the women in these 6 tribes. And the interviews were held with the community beneficiaries, the management, the officers of the Deutung Development Project, the women workers at different factories, which I just mentioned, also trying to look at how these women come from diverse backgrounds and different ethnic groups. So there was different experiences for all the women from these 6 ethnic groups as well. And the survey was also conducted for about 22 women in the village. And the major success stories were also highlighted as a part of this research publication. Can we move on to the next slide, please? So when we look at the problems, we've always been talking about issues and problems women face across the globe. But when we try to quantify and try to look at some kind of evidence-based studies to understand the gaps, it's very, very important to look at the typical or the relevant indicators, whether they are from the economic aspect, the social aspect, and the well-being aspect. So when we looked at this, we tried to identify the economic indicators, which we would be focusing on, the social indicators, and the well-being indicators. So some of them are rightly mentioned here: the education aspect, digital divide for women, women being paid, the wage gap between women, participation in terms of labor market, women in unpaid care and domestic work, how the women have been participating in the self-help groups. Do they have bank accounts? They have been taking loans for any purposes? What kind of earnings do they have per month? And what could be the possible other incomes and other sources of income for these females? And similarly, there were certain indicators identified at the social level, looking at why women are migrating, environmental degradation and climate change impact on these women's, how the energy poverty and lack of safe, reliable, clean energy has been impacting at the social level or not. Also, various other well-being indicators, how they participate in the financial decision-making in the household, also looking at the leadership positions they hold, and also equal rights in terms of economic resources and various others rightly mentioned here. Can we move on to the next slide, please? So the impact seen during the last 3 decades is significant. We see how the education opportunity has brought change in the community. The senior high school, high vocational certificate, university level, which was quite less, about 0.2% in 1993, has increased to about 12.6% by 2017. Average income per person has also grown multiple times, where we could see it in 1988, and the present income per person per year is above 100,000 Thai baht. Also, the environmental aspect, where we see that the more areas are being developed as the reserved forest, also the economic forest, and more areas have been allocated for cultivation and sustenance forest, and also residential areas. So that this kind of development project has substantially brought in changes in terms of the social, economic, and the environmental aspect. Next slide, please. So there are multiple sustainable development initiatives that came in along the way over the years, and the cottage industries center and outlets were created, where there were lots of people from the community participating, especially the women. This brought in a lot of change in the overall social, economic, and well-being aspect of women within the communities. Next slide, please. If we look at the weaving factory, this was a very interesting case because 100% of the workers here were women. And we could see, I think this is also a hand woven jacket which belongs to this weaving factory in Doiping project. And we could see multiple generations, from grandmothers to mothers to daughters, playing an important role in these weaving factories. Next slide, please. So various other initiatives like the paper factory, the coffee roasting factory, the ceramic factory, we could see a certain amount of contribution by women workers. And this brought in some kind of economic opportunities for the women. And the kind of linkage we could see with the social norms is it was very prominent in terms of looking at the decline in girls married under the age of 20, which was much higher in 1993, and we can see how it reduced to just 28 in 2020. Next slide, please. So there were various other issues that were discussed under the survey. I think I'll just give you a quick idea where we looked at different categories of women work involvement and tried to look at the kind of earnings they have, the alternative earnings, and the other things, and see how they have benefited over the years to come. Next slide. So when we look at the findings from the research, we could see in terms of the economic aspects that women having access to finance, around 96.3% of women were having savings and investment as a priority. Around 81.6% of women had bank accounts. 62.2% of women had contributed to certain amount of savings in the previous month, ranging between below, I would say, 50,000 baht. And 28% of women have been taking loans ranging from within this range up to 300,000 baht for different sources, whether it is family, village, fund, education loans, and personal loans. Looking at the gender divide, gender digital divide, around 93% women were found to be using ICT technologies for various purposes. And 68.3% women confirmed that they still contribute to more unpaid care and domestic work as compared to men. So unemployed women have other sources of families, it was found, in terms of family income, and wives were involved in activities like farming, handicrafts, and which also generated alternate incomes apart from the other family incomes for these women. Next slide, please. So the key findings for the social aspects, especially in terms of work and migration, around 82% women indicated their preference to work, and only 2.1% of women are working out of compulsion, which gives us a clear indication that given a choice, every woman wants to be independent and want to be empowered in terms of economic, social, and other issues. 42.2% women also looked at migrating to cities. They experienced this for education and other purposes. And about 83.4% women received government support from the Social Security, and also about 24.6% of women received COVID-19 subsidy during the pandemic period. So I think education, employment, and economic independence over the time has led to change the social culture and well-being aspects in the community where majority of women prefer to work. Next slide, please. So just identifying these challenges as a part of the research study, there were certain recommendations which we came up with, and the recommendations were based on the independent challenges identified, like gender discrimination, trying to come up with the recommendations in terms of sensitizing families, creating or incentivizing women right to land ownership to reduce violence and equal rights, and also conduct standardized interviews, skills-based assessment in terms of gender-neutral recruitment process in the community. Looking at the other challenge of unpaid care work and domestic work, more encouraging people to do open discussions on gender norms and stereotypes, promoting flexible working hours, and many more, as you can see. I think I'll try to speed up, not taking much time on this, but there are multiple recommendations that came forward as the challenges were identified. Next slide, please. Gender wage gap. Close to the gap between laws, written documents, and real practices by communicating the mission to eliminate gender bias and ensuring equal play at all levels was one of the very strong and important aspect recommended for reducing gender wage gap, including pay brackets, salary range, also was an important recommendation. And gender wage gap is seen to widen after women have children. Introducing shared parental leave policies would help parents share childcare equally. So there are certain recommendations that can also play an important role in reducing the gender wage gap. Also looking at the enhancing skills in different areas, recommendations like looking at the existing training programs and identifying new areas such as innovative technologies, language training, soft skills, self-management, and health and stress management programs, build capacities through education and knowledge through technical and vocational courses, identify linkages with existing training providers, academia, institutions, and research organizations to develop a better plan for online learning, and so on and so forth. Next slide, please. And the other two very important issues, access to energy and water. So more focus on improving infrastructure would reduce effort in terms of unpaid work, which includes food, fuel, water collection, and other energy provisions, and also promote solar energy, subsidy for solar pumps to well owners, and other things could be an important next steps coming forward. And the overall impact of environmental degradation and climate change on women, there were also certain recommendations in terms of encouraging women involvement in the areas of waste management and other initiatives to the sufficiency economy program, and trying to identify water deficiency based on human, animal, and agriculture requirements in terms of water budgeting and water treatment were one of the critical areas trying to prioritize and look into coming forward in the next days. Also looking at studying and analyzing drainage and line treatment and developing through water harvesting and other maybe nature-based solutions that could play an important role in improving the overall sustenance and environment sustainability. Next slide, please. So I think I'll just like to conclude here. It has been a very interesting journey throughout the research study. And we see that the World Bank's Women, Business and Law also indicated that women still have only 3/4 of the legal rights of men on average around the world. Women Business and Law Index also analyze that through their life, beginning from the right to mobility, workplace, pay, marriage, parenthood, entrepreneurship, asset, pension, there are various other things where women have been affected and need to be looked at the local level, at the community level. Although Thailand has taken measures to provide universal access to education, equal access to loans and credits, microcredits for women entrepreneurs to increase women access to capital, and supporting these initiatives, the Doitum Development Project has been successful in providing women a platform to learn, develop, and create value at the community level, at the local level. And these are some very interesting, promising steps towards gender equality in terms of stimulating business growth and coping with climate change and improving the overall economic progress for women in the community. And women involvement and participation in activities would not only develop their skills, but also increase self-efficacy in terms of better decision making, which would further expand opportunities to new markets, increasing financial independence, and improving the overall livelihoods of women at all levels. So I think that brings me, next slide, please. So these are some very interesting pictures from the project. I think I would really like to have my sincere thanks and appreciation for the Doitung Development Project, Ma Falung Foundation and Royal Patronage. This is Kunchai, which is the main architect, the core architect of this Doitung Development Project, and Kun Visiton, which is the head of the research team. Very kind support from all the women who are involved in this project throughout the period of 2 years where I was involved as a consultant to the Doitung Development Project. And I'm very grateful for the faith and confidence they had in me in order to take up this project. It has been an enriching experience, very close to my heart. And I think I'll just move on to the next slide, which is the last one, which shows that this publication is freely available to download from the website of Ma Falung Foundation. And this is the link which I provide here. For any interested readers, this is freely available to share and read more about it. So thank you very much once again, and I will be happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much. Sure.
Thank you so much, Professor Sinha. It was a very interesting presentation, very well researched. I was going through, listening very carefully to what you were saying. The statistics that you have mentioned are very encouraging. However, I would like to ask you a couple of questions, if you permit me. Besides the generic questions, two statistics that you mentioned was that 28% of women took loans, only 28% women. So figuratively, that means that 72% of women do not have access or do not have the inclination to approach a financial institution and take a loan. So that automatically means that women have lesser approach to finances, which would mean lesser and limited options or opportunities for growth. So that's one. Second, you said only 24.6% received COVID subsidy. So that means, again, either the government was not able to reach out to these people because COVID has affected almost everybody's life in a very negative manner. We have seen corporations, big corporations going bankrupt. We have seen a lot of businesses closing down. So it has been a very unfortunate situation. However, if only 25% on, let's say, ladies have received the COVID subsidy, 70% did not. So whether it was the government was not able to reach out to them or they were not able to approach the correct authorities for a subsidy. So my questions to you would be, how can the governments promote economic empowerment of women? And another question would be, how do we close this gender pay gap that you have been mentioning in almost entire of your presentation? How do we close the gender pay gap, increase job opportunities and access to loans? So this is my question to you.
Thank you so much, Vipulji. Very pertinent questions and very interesting that you brought both these points forward. The first one is access to loans. So it if you if we look at the study, we tried to understand which of the households were having leading women as the household, right? Leading in the household. So I think there have been challenges in terms of women having access to bank accounts. So that is something which restricts them. But those who have who are not the lead, don't have the leading role in the households, are definitely not the ones who are going to take loans. Also, along with this, it was seen when we meet the women in the tribes, and I learned from these women that there is support from the government about 100,000. It's 1 million, not 100,000. Sorry, 1 million baht, which has been provided for loans, which can be easily taken by the people within this community. So the loans are generally taken by the head of the households. So probably we can consider that as the women being the head of the households have been applied for the loans. And that's why you see the ratio a little less. The second one was regarding receiving subsidy from the government during pandemic. So actually there was a good amount of subsidy coming from the government, but the challenge was that you have to be registered through a system to be capable of accessing the subsidy from the government. And there is a challenge that many of these women in the community do not have a Thai ID card. So they are still under the process of applying for these identification cards, after which they can be able to register to the systems where they will be able to have access to the subsidies by the government. So that is one thing which has limited the women to have this kind of, or maybe making use of the subsidy from the government during the pandemic. And I think there is a good amount of initiative which we see from the government. One very important thing to highlight is that I saw the younger generation moving out of the community, coming to Bangkok, maybe other parts of Thailand for higher education. But the good part is that they all return back to the community. They all go back to Chiang Rai to the Doi Tung Development Project and contribute in these projects in somehow whatever possible ways. Because the labor cost, the labor charges are now the same throughout the country at the overall national level. So even the laborers which are in the Doi Tung community are earning the same amount which is required or which is expected at any part of in Thailand. So that is something which actually encourages them, and at the same time getting education from the other areas and things have actually improved their skills, where they have started weaving products, trying to create high skill product, create a brand out of those products. So I think, as we know, Doi Tung as a coffee brand in Thailand, also the weaving products of Doi Tung have now become a big brand and are scaling up in Thailand, in different parts of Thailand, very prominently seen in Bangkok, because this is up-end fashion areas. So there are definitely interesting things which have been implemented, and there are still in progress, which we would see the effect coming up in the future years to come. I hope I answered your questions.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was very, very informative. Thank you so much for your brilliant presentation.
Thank you so
Now I
much.
would like to invite Achan Sophana Srichampa to please present, to make her presentation.
Yeah, would you please share the slide? Okay. Yeah, good morning. And thank you so much for inviting me to join today's presentation. So my topic is on yoga beyond boundaries, case studies of women prisoners in Thailand and India. Yeah, next. I give you a brief introduction about our center. The Center for Para Studies, or CBS, at the Research Institute for Languages and Cultures of Asia, Mahidol University, Thailand, in collaboration with the HSS Thailand, organized the first workshop on yoga for holistic well-being on July 17, 2015, with a brief lecture on yoga and its practice, granted to around 100 participants at our Ryuga Hall. So next. This activity aimed at creating awareness in Thais of the importance of yoga for their holistic well-being before the International Day on Yoga launched by the UN following Prime Minister Narendra Modi of India's proposal on June 21st. Next. Yeah. Since 2016, the CBS has been working together with Dr. Adrish Brahmadatta, an Indian guru on yoga, to organize several yoga activities. Next. So I come up to the yoga for the prisoners. Thailand has the sixth largest inmate population in the world and the highest in ASEAN. Prisons are overwhelmed by 2 to 3 times the number of inmates that can be accommodated. In 2016, there were like almost 50,000 people in the prison again, which number is increasing every year. This is the statistic in 2020. So next. Since 2013 to 2020, the Thai Health Promotion Foundation started and supported a project, Healthy Prison, by teaching yoga at 3 provincial prisons, Udon Thani, Ratchaburi Prison, and Ubon Ratchathani Prison. The outcomes were very positive. Next. So the CBS considers that prisoners are one such group who forgotten and often despised by mainstream society, are especially vulnerable upon release from prison. Prison life undeniably causes them stress and tension. So after their discharge, if they are not properly prepared for their new life outside, they often recidivate and re-enter the prison system according to Thai prison statistics. Next. However, there are government and private shelters for those who are vulnerable. Many victims suffer psychological damage, stress, feelings of revenge, remorse, and depression due to their traumatic experiences that take time to heal. In addition, they must stay in limited surroundings. Even though they are provided various vocational trainings, it is just a temporary relief. Prayer and meditation too can help to bring peace of mind. Next. But these activities are separate and cannot be integrated at the same time for the convicted and incarcerated. Overcrowded prisons are not conducive to rehabilitation and reform of bad to good people who can emerge as law-abiding citizens. As clear from the statistics, recidivism is on the rise. So will innocent people continue to live at risk of social insecurity? This is our question. Yeah. Next. One of Mahidol University's social engagement initiatives. In 2021 to 2022, Mahidol University and the CBS together initiated the project Smart Living for the Quality of Life, Empowerment and Career Development of Vulnerable Populations through the science of yoga for sustainable development. For this reason, the CBS has joined with the Ratchaburi Central Prison, around 100 kilometers from Mahidol, to organize 90 hours yoga training courses for 100 10 women inmates. At the beginning, we planned to train them on site, but due to the second wave of COVID-19, we instead decided to provide 45 multiple 3-hour training sessions online per financial year. Next. The trainees are happy to learn yoga with the Indian yoga guru, Dr. Adrish Brahmadatta, and his assistant. And after each class, they go off to practice the poses by themselves. Certificates are presented to the trainees by Ryuga, my office, in collaboration with the Rajburi Central Prison. When the training project is over, there is an evaluation process, and the findings of the evaluation will help the planning of further projects. So next. So I just present some results from the evaluations. Yeah, next. I asked why are they interested in taking a yoga training course. There are many answers. So just example, I would like to present to you. Because there is a yoga training program in the prison, therefore they want to practice yoga. It makes them healthy, practice meditation, practice patience, and relax their muscles. They like and want to be able to do different poses of yoga. Outside, there is no opportunity to learn. They want to know and experience yoga. It's good for health, calms their mind, and keeps them in good shapes. They want to learn and practice yoga with a teacher from India. Next. So, and I asked them, after each day of training, have they brought the knowledge of yoga to practice and review? All of them answered that after the class, they practice more. So most the time of the day that they practice from the most to the least, morning and afternoon. Next daytime and then next afternoon and before going to bed. So morning session is popular. So next. So these are regular practice in the Rajburi Central Prison from Monday to Friday from 9 o'clock to 2:30 every day. Next. Was yoga helpful to them while they were in prison? All the inmates said yoga was helpful, giving the following reasons. Yoga is beneficial. It makes their body strong, healthy, and their mind calm. They can concentrate better, relax, have fun, and be happy doing the various poses. They use their free time usefully and make the time go by very quickly. It also gets them in good shape. Next. Will they continue to develop the science of yoga that they have been trained in to teach others? 83.6% of inmate trainees, around 92 people, answered that they would use the science of yoga to teach and develop the abilities of others. 12% or around 11 people answered that they would not use the science of yoga to teach and develop others, and 7.7% did not answer. Yeah. Next. What kind of materials and yoga courses do they want? The inmate trainees who attended the training wished to have access to media and publications to benefit their yoga practice and development. These included from most to least video clips on YouTube, mobile applications, pocket version of illustrated materials, CDs, etc. The results of the satisfaction survey on the instructors, content, equipment, and knowledge and understanding of the trainees recorded satisfaction at the high and highest levels. Next. Every day in the afternoon, 3 to 4 yoga teachers, the inmates teach yoga to the new inmates. So it's like compulsory for the new inmates to be trained by the experienced inmates. Finally, there is an ex-inmate released from prison and become a freelance yoga teacher in Ratchaburi province. After tracking about 50 inmates in the yoga project, it was found that only 3 became repeat offenders, representing only 6%. Yeah, next. So this is the old statistic. So after that, I searched from India website and I found that we have the same idea, although they started before us. So I would like to share with you about India. So yoga courses have been taught in Indian jail since 2008. Over 850 prisoners have participated in around 18 batches. NAF Chetna Shivirs or introductory programs highlighting the need for physical and mental hygiene available to over 1,500 people have also been conducted in prisons. Next. None of the prisoners who have undertaken Sudarshan Kiriya have returned to jail to date, shares Sadashiv Kamat, a prison program teacher teaching actively in the Mangalore Central Jail. Another example is a spiritual NGO called Amma, which aims to help uplift prisoners through yoga. Next. Yeah. In collaboration with state and local governments, their volunteers, Amma organization, their volunteers have traveled to prisons and jails in India to teach thousands of inmates. The largest initiative is in Kerala, where instructors have reached more than 21,000 inmates in 50 institutions, including central prisons, district prisons, subjails, and special subjails spread across the state. Next. Teachers have also visited institutions in the state of Haryana and Punjab in North India. Nearly 2.5 years since this initiative started, many prisoners maintain a daily practice and say they concretely feel the improvements in their mental and physical health. Next. Since 2019, trainers in Tamil Nadu have taught about 5,000 prisoners in all the central prisons. At the beginning of 2021, to reach inmates during the pandemic, another 500 people participated in online sessions to learn integrated Amrita meditation techniques or IAM. Next. At the close of the session, meditation ended with prayers for world peace and all the prisoners, with eyes closed and hands folded, chanted from the bottom of their hearts. As Amma's darshan video reveals, sobbing could be heard, hearts were opening up. Many were trying to hide their tears. That's a reflection of one yoga teacher. Next. The head jail master was surprised at the response from the prisoners. It was as if they had received darshan from Amma. Her loving embrace, her warmth, her love. It was like time had stopped and none of them wanted to leave the hall. It was like Amma says, even a hardcore criminal has a soft heart. Pure love is the best medicine for the modern world. Love can heal wounded hearts. Love is the answer and love is the way. Next. So I would like to summarize that. So next, please. Yoga Beyond Boundaries can help the inmates in Thai and Indian prisons to be transformed, to be good and healthy individuals who can contribute positively to society. At Ratchaburi Central Prison, Thailand, daily yoga practice has become a must-do for the new women inmates, taught by those trained as part of our project. Anyone released can use their yoga knowledge and practice as a yoga teacher and thereby pursue an independent profession. The Healthy Prison Project in Thailand, projects set up by CBS and Amma's project in India have been initiated with the best wishes, love, and support of women who strongly empathize with the vulnerable. Thank you very much. Oh, not yet. Please go back. Yoga beyond boundaries can also be seen as providing practical help as a response to SDG number 3, number 4, number 10, number 16, and 17. So that's all. Thank you very much. Yeah, and happy International Women's Day. ขอบคุณค่ะ
Thank you so much, Achan Sophana. It was a very wonderful presentation on this happy occasion of International Women's Day. You have chosen a topic which is very nice, very good, very philanthropic in nature. You're trying to work to improve the lives of a section of society which is usually forgotten. Business is something nobody wants to get into. Business,
They are afraid of
let
them.
the police people handle the business, or let the prison authorities handle them. Normally people of the society, they don't want to even look into that direction. When you pass when you are traveling in your car and you pass by a prison, you normally don't want to even look at that side where you have a prison. So thank you so much. You are working in a very good, very human, very philanthropic manner to improve the lives of the inmates, which I'm seeing that include women also. So just a very simple question: do you organize a combined sort of workshop for the inmates who are women, or it's like a common workshop? And do we have specially women prisons in Thailand where only women stay? Or I mean, how's it like in Thailand?
I think in the prison they separate between male and female, right? And for this group that we taught them, I think they are not like a severe. They are not under the severe cases. Yeah, so the prison select the volunteers who would love to practice yoga, and there are 100 inmates, women inmates. Yeah, in fact, we would also like to train male inmates too, but we still have to find budget and time to collaborate with the prison again. Yeah, in fact, we would like to train the male too. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Well, that brings us to the end of this special webinar. I would like to thank you both for joining us and sharing your thoughts on women empowerment in very different ways. Professor Sinha had a very different topic. Achan, you had a very different topic. But thank you so much for joining us. It was most informative, very interesting. We look forward to work with you in future, collaborate with you so that we can carry on the good work that you're doing. Thank you so much. Kapunakap. สวัสดีครับ
ขอบคุณค่ะ